So it's always this complexity versus usability. What design principles help you manage that trade off?
You've touched a topic which is very close to my heart, which is this whole idea of complexity. And that was one of the reasons I also joined financial services. I felt like, design really shines when you have a very complex problem to solve. And that's where design becomes critical and has a much more important role to play. I would say while I was in Parsons doing my MFA, there was this book that was proposed that we all read, and we read it. It was called Interface Culture. It was about this guy Stephen Johnson. He's written quite a few books after that. I've read them too. He had this really good kind of a line which he used for interface. What is an interface? He says interface is something that lets you imagine infinity. So on the
Yeah.
one side is infinity, that is like, so you can substitute that with complexity, right? There's unending complexity on the other one side. And then the interface allows you to manipulate, understand what that complexity and is allowing you to manipulate that complexity. I really like that definition of an interface. So when I was in that world of user experience design and interface design, the idea was how do you take that complexity and then present it to the user in a way that it becomes something that they can imagine, understand, and eventually manipulate in some way. So that is the role of the interface. So yes, there are a few things that you can do, but at the end of the day, it's all about taking down that complexity down to simplicity. And there are various principles, but one of the main ones that usually people do not think about is the cognitive load
Yeah.
of complexity, right? You have to make sure that you understand how the human mind works and what are its biases and how do you use them to be able to present something so that the customer understands that as best as possible, right? There are various design patterns and user experience things that you do, right? One of them, for example, is just progressive disclosure, right? Like you don't immediately display everything. You make sure that the user goes on a journey as they explore that complexity, going from what they really need to know right now to once they've understood that, taking them to the next level. So you're almost graduating the user through a series of stages through which progressively getting exposed to that complexity. There are also other things like chunking. You make sure that you're presenting information in bytes and numbers, which are obviously manageable by the user. Other than that, like visualization of information is very, very important. So I come from a visual background, just understanding whether it's data visualization or whether it's how how the information is presented in terms of a certain hierarchy within the